So when I got my TC, I saw it didn't have an option for a backup camera, but I did look online and I saw there is an input for a camera on the factory head unit. Camera Source on Amazon does have a direct plug-and-play camera system for you, so I didn't have to do any wire cutting. I just ran the wires and plugged it into the back of the factory head unit, and then boom, I have a picture. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I wired it up, because if you look, it's a little blurry. You can't really tell from my camera here, but this is actually a little bit blurry because it's humid out. The issue is that I think there must be some moisture got underneath the lens. I did email them though, and they immediately sent me a replacement camera. And since I have to take this one out to send it back, I went ahead and ordered another camera from Parkvision. The Parkvision camera is nice because it'll actually allow me to adjust the picture vertically and horizontally so I can actually get it to be centered, even though the camera is physically mounted off center. So let me go ahead and show you that. Alright, so if you look here, you can see how I have the camera mounted. Now, I've seen some people mount smaller cameras right here. This is originally where I wanted to do it, but the camera size is too large to go in here. And I'm actually kind of glad to have it over here as opposed to like right in front of my license plate frame. Alright, so here's the box for the Parkvision I'm going to be putting in. This is the replacement one that Camera Source sent me. And you can see it is larger than the Parkvision one. It also has a large hole that I had to drill out to install it. They did actually include a drill bit to do the installation hole with, so I didn't have to like worry about additional tools for that. But I'm going to replace this one with the Parkvision one. As you can see though, it's definitely got a smaller hole that you have to drill for it, so I'm adding a washer for the top. I'm putting a little bit of a washer here to fill in the gap between, basically where this would be. And then that'll make that easier to install and make sure it does not move. So I'm going to go ahead and start taking apart the panels, and then I'll show you how I ran everything. Alright, so normally if I was just going to install the replacement camera, I just have to unplug the camera from here and then wire in the new camera and then plug it into here. But the new Parkvision camera has more wires on it. It actually has, as you can see here, there are 4 on there. The Parkvision has 5 that surround and 1 in the middle, and that's because it's got an extra button that attaches to it that lets you adjust the left, right, and the parking lines. So I'm going to go ahead and rerun this wire. Now, in order to do that, I'm going to do a little bit disassembly, but I'm going to just basically attach the new wire onto here and then use this to help fish the new wire back through. So I have removed some of the panels, so I'm going to show you which ones you really need to take out. Now, I'm not going to do all of the panels on here because I don't need to, but alright, so you'll obviously need to get the stereo out, and you can do that by grabbing underneath it here, and you can pull, and it'll pop out. And then you work your way around the top, and this will all come right out. It's a little hard to do with one hand, but trust me, it does work. So yeah, so you can see it's already coming out, and then just basically, boom, and then get the other side. That's going to be a little difficult with one hand though. So once this comes out, there'll be 4 screws to get the head unit out. Once you get the head unit out, here we go, I got it. Actually, yeah, there's going to be a little harness back here too for the clock. But once you get the head unit out, here's your 4 bolts actually. You'll be able to then fish a wire down to the back and underneath. And then I basically zip tied the wire under here. I popped this panel out. I'm not going to do that at the moment here, but basically this will lift out and then it'll come off. I extra secured mine with a zip tie around the screw here because it kept popping out, unfortunately, because I kept pushing down here and it would shift this and this would come off. So you'll basically just grab from here, lift it out, run the wire down. You can see here's the wire that I'm going to have to replace. Then I ran it all the way towards the back. And now I did lift the back seat off of here. If you grab the back seat from here and then lift straight up, you can pop the seat cover off and you'll have some access down to here. But I basically just kind of fished the wire up the side here, up this way here, and then under the headliner to the back, and I'll show you that. So then the wire came, I ran it underneath the headliner here, and then I used some WD-40 to fish it up through this rubber piece and up into here, and then you can see it basically runs around. Now to get access to the underside here, you're going to want to pop the plastic pieces off. So this one is going to be here. You want to start with the middle one here. As you can see, it's just held by little clips, so just pull it, it'll come right off. Then you'll do the side ones. Right here on the side ones, there'll be one of these clips here. If you just take a flathead screwdriver and stick it in there, then you can kind of use it to sort of like slowly pull it out. And then once you get that, then you need to get access to here. And this is what the back side of that looks like, and it's just clips. So all you have to do is just carefully pull it. It'll make a lot of noise coming out, but it's just clips that hold it in. All right, great. So now that I've got that done, I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick test to make sure the new camera works, and then I'll pop this thing down here and then show you how I had to install the camera itself. And now I remember why I hated running this wire in the first place. So, all right, so to get up into here, I pulled this away far enough that I could just basically get around with a socket here and underneath here, where you can see the hole right back there. And if you take out the 2 bolts, then you can get the upper trim piece off. So remove the 2 bolts, and then you can basically pull it away from the top and then slide it down and under. And then I ran the wire all the way up here, and I have it zip tied in place so it doesn't like interfere with anything here. And then I basically just kind of ran it along the underside of here. This part here was the hook that was there, and if you it's got a little plastic cover. I just took this tool, slid it there to pop this out, and then it lifts straight up and out, and then it sits here. You can see this metal tab here. You just kind of pinch this, and then you can pop this off. So run the wire underneath here. Be careful, because this is a airbag here, so I kind of wanted to avoid this. I just kind of ran the wire here and then fish it down from above. So I've already pulled the little plastic lock here, so this gives me enough room to work with. And I'll go ahead and show you underneath that grommet in the back. That's going to be the fun part also. So now, I can reach underneath here. You can see the wire comes up, and then I basically just ran up to this grommet. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and run the new wire. I already tested the Parkvision camera, and I know it's going to work. I just have to get all the wires in. So let's get that done. Due to how much of a pain it is to run this wire, instead of pulling it through to remove the old wire, I'm going to leave the old one in place in case I ever have to swap the camera back for any reason. But as you can see, some WD-40, and you can eventually fish this wire through. You can see I pulled it out. I separated it out from the plastic piece here to make it easier to fish through. So I'm going to go ahead and reattach everything and then run the wire back underneath. Alright, so I got it through the rubber grommet and reattached that. So I was able to then take the wire and push it from the top here, and then take my other hand from this side and then just basically grab the wire and successfully pull it through. So now I'm just going to run it down alongside the existing harness here. I'm just going to add a zip tie here, and then probably one down here, and then run it down and around until it comes back up to the front. So that is the hardest part of running the wire. Alright, so I definitely wasn't expecting to be doing an entire wire job on the car here with this, but as you can see, I already have the panels back on here. I've run the wire up to here. So the next thing I did was I got from underneath here, pulled this out from here, and then worked it around the top and then the edge, and it's just 4 clips. And then I was able to reach my hand down and then pull the wire up and through. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the gauge cluster so I can run the wire behind it and secure it. And if you look here, I have the stereo already pulled out. You can see here's the existing camera wire. I'm just going to run it in parallel to this again. That way, if I ever want to change the camera out, then I have a better chance of compatibility with other camera systems. I mean, hopefully once I install this Parkvision, that will be the camera for me, and I won't have to change it out again. but better to just leave it in for now and pull it out later than have to deal with this all over again. All right, let's get the gauge cluster off and see what it looks like back there. All right, so the gauge cluster cover comes off very easily. You just kind of grab from the sides and pull it forward. So you can see it's just held in with some very light clips. But once that's out of the way, you have plenty of room to work with. So I was able to just pull the wire up from here to here, run it behind here, drop it down, and then finally pull it out over here. So great. Now all I'm going to do is take the harness for the rear view camera, which is this here, and plug it into here, and then tap the power wire in for the camera on the back. The ground wire for the Parkvision will not actually run all the way up to here, so I'm not going to tap into the ground. I'm just going to ground the Parkvision camera at the trunk lid. But for those that are curious, basically this top harness here, when you look around the back on the stereo, this is where the camera goes into. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and get that wired up, and then we'll start looking at the actual camera install itself. All right, so now I'm going to take the trim off so I can swap out the camera. So if you look up in here, there'll be a nut here and on the other side as well. And then on the trunk release, there's two nuts. So take those off and remove the harness from the trunk release. And then when you come on this side, you just have to carefully grab it from this side and the other side and pull. Being careful that you don't end up getting this piece here to rub on here, otherwise it will scratch the paint up a little bit. So, but as you can see, once it comes off, boom, there's the two screw heads there. They go in the back, and then the trunk release one, and then the other one. And as you can see on this side, I've got two clips on this side, but only one installed on this side. That's because I've used the clip hole to run the wire for the camera. All right, so here is the underside where the camera is installed. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and swap in the new camera and then pop it back in. All right, so here's the new camera in place. I've already cleaned out the old camera's adhesive here, but as you can see, there's a lot of play. But if I kind of pull it forward so that the small washer I've temporarily added is in place, you can see the play is reduced. And I'm just going to do that temporarily while I make adjustments on where I want this to sit exactly. Now, before I pull the tape off of here so that the adhesive sticks, I'm going to put this back on the car, tighten it down enough so that it'll stay in one place, and then I'm going to adjust the left and right until the parking lines are actually straight with with what's behind the car. I might actually do the adjustments with the Parkvision for the left and right to center everything. And once everything looks all centered and straight, then I'm going to go ahead and put some painter's tape on the sides and on the front here so that I know exactly where this is supposed to sit. Then I'll take it off, pull the adhesive, set it into place, and then crank it down and actually finish installing it. All right, one other quick note with the Parkvision camera that I discovered by chance. I didn't actually hook up the ground wire, and I saw that the camera still operated without that part connected, so I guess it must be using the ground or the RCA cable. But that is a nice little surprise. It does make wiring a bit easier. All right, let me go ahead and get the camera properly aimed and then installed. All right, so I stuck a trash can directly behind the car, a couple feet back in the middle, and you can see it's off-center on the screen. So let's do a couple things here with the Parkvision. First off, I'll mess with the parking line adjustment because I'm not quite sure how far off, but I think about there looks right from what I remember. I'm more interested in checking the horizontal adjustment. So you can hear I've run the button from the harness on the back to the front of the car temporarily, so I can make these adjustments. All right, so it's not perfectly centered because the camera is so far off to the side, but that is a lot better than it was before. So there's some other functions you can do. You can also do shift vertical, which is pretty nice. Let's see. You can do mirroring horizontally, mirroring vertically, depending on, if you're putting out another car, you mount it differently, and then reset factory settings. All right, great. So I'm going to mess around with this for a little bit and then mark off the exact position of the camera with painter's tape and then actually secure it. Alright, so I've got the camera all lined up and marked off with the painter's tape, so I'm going to go ahead and take it off and adhese it on here. Now, what I ended up doing was I took my toolbox and set it behind the car, used the tape measure to make sure that I had equal distances from here to here, and then used the parking lines to line it up against the edge here, and I just kept tilting, turning the camera left and right until the lines were straight. That's how I ended up with this position here. Also, let me show you really quickly on the harness. The smaller red plug here, this is what goes to the switch that I was clicking on the front to do all those adjustments on the camera. Once you do that and you turn off the camera, it saves those settings, so I'm not going to need to use this again. I'm just going to zip tie this up and probably like attach it back here and just stow it in case I ever need to use it again. That way I don't lose it. Alright, let me go ahead and finish up this installation and then we'll take a look at it again. Alright, so the camera is now secured in place. The adhesive tape's not going to let it move anywhere, plus I cranked down that nut pretty tight. Alright, so now if I step back from the car, you'll see I still have my toolbox back here, and it's centered with the car, and it's lined up so that it's still parallel with the car. So let's look at the screen. And as you can see, the backup lines line up with the toolbox. Now, if the camera was turned a little bit to the left or right, it'll actually like adjust. It'll be like askew a little bit. So you want to take your time and make sure everything's lined up. Also, because of the Parkvision features, the toolbox, which would normally be over here with a standard camera, I was able to adjust so that it's more centered. Now, because the camera is so far off centered on the car, I can't get it perfectly centered, but this is much better than what I had before. I wish I knew about the Parkvision ahead of time and that I could find a separate harness for this head unit to connect the camera into, because I would have just gone right for the Parkvision to begin with, and then, you know, in conjunction with the harness. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm unhappy with my camera source camera. I'm unhappy that I paid as much as I did for it, but it was a very easy installation for something I wasn't familiar with at the time. All I had to do was plug it into the back of here, run the wire to the back, which is the worst part, and then mount the camera and plug it in on that end. And it worked right off the bat. I didn't have to do anything extra. So if you don't want to have a pain in the ass time with the camera, and you want it to be as easy as possible, get the camera source, just be prepared to spend some extra money. They do have some good customer service, like I said early on in the video. I did have some fogging with mine. All I did was I emailed them, they apologized for the issues I was having, and they just mailed me out a new one. So, alright. Hopefully if you install a backup camera, you have an easier time trying to run the wires than I did. Thanks for watching.